Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight is a viewer request. This one comes from Joe C. It states, here's an idea for a video. Is it healthy to be utterly fascinated with NPD? And what is your opinion on how long is a healthy amount of time to watch and learn about it? Also on why statistics say only 1% has it, and how prevalent high traits of NPD are in America and many modern societies. Thank you for your humor and contribution. TJ, hopefully your channel will really take off. Well, share it with your friends that it may apply to. In answer to the first question, I would say, hell yes, it's healthy to be fascinated. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say fascinated, but it's healthy to be interested in and to research and learn about Narcissistic Personality Disorder. But I think that also depends on where you're coming from. If you're just a person who's never heard of such a thing and never dealt with such a creature, and then one day stumble upon an article or something about it and then became fascinated, that's one thing. It's a completely different thing if you've been involved with such a creature and after it was all over, you stumbled across some literature or media that discussed it. And if that's the case, then I don't think that there's any set length time to be fascinated with it, because typically if you've experienced something like that, learning about it is liberating and validating, because you remember going through certain situations that you'd never encountered before and thinking that there's something you did that was wrong and you were wondering what you should have done to make things work out better. When you learn that these creatures are part of a cluster of sickness, when they all do the same things, then you could be fascinated for hours, months, years and never be tired of it. One of the best things about it, though, I believe, if you research it, is in terms of healing. Because in my own situation, long ago, I was dealing with a creature like this, but didn't have a clue what any of this stuff was. I just thought that I stumbled across a great person, and it just didn't work out. And then I'd noticed these things it was doing, and it was all new, so I didn't have any label for it. I just figured, this is a unique situation that I'm going through, and this person is a unique way. But then a few years later in college, in a communications class, I remember the teacher discussing various communication styles. And the teacher brought up the very type of conversations I would have with this creature I'd been involved with, and it all made sense. It was very liberating, very freeing. It was validating, because all that time I thought I had done something, that there are certain people that behave in certain ways that are not healthy. In my situation, it was someone who was much older. Just to hear the teacher talk about it was like a feeling of a weight being lifted off, which is the same thing you'll experience if you come across videos, books, or both. I have experienced that as well. My interest stemmed from experience, because up until several years ago, I had no label for any of this stuff. It was just, oh my goodness, I was involved with the person who did these terrible things, and I would just think of each one individually. Then I stepped back and looked and thought, wait a second. In fact, I would recall some of the very same lines being spoken by many of them. I would say a healthy amount of time to watch and learn about these things would be until you feel well armed with the knowledge you'll need to protect yourself in the future in the case you come across such a creature again. So I've gone through many different phases of this. In the beginning, I had no idea about it, but then later I started to learn, and like with the long-term 11-year situation I was in, by that point I started going onto the internet and looking up certain keywords like lying about this and doing that and so on. It brought up the word sociopath. And I remember saying, you're a sociopath, to the creature, which doesn't do any good. But I didn't know. I was just excited because I learned a label for what it was. And of course it said, no, I'm not. You are. And typical situation. Once you learn more, you realize just how much that is true. But it was a long process, and it can be a long process. It can be years. And if that's what it takes for you to heal from what you went through, then have at it. I don't think there's anything unhealthy about gaining additional knowledge about a subject you're interested in. Knowledge is power, and knowledge helps heal. So I'd say watch it until you're sick of it. And when you watch another video or read another book or article, you've heard it all before, well then you can step back and feel confident you have a thorough understanding. Once you get bored of it, in the case you're not involved with it and never have been, then just be prepared that you may become involved with it. Then you know to get away as fast as possible, which is helpful. I've watched my own situation where I've come across certain people who displayed these traits, and I would hear them say, hey, let's do this. And I'd think back in the olden days, even if I have a weird gut feeling about this person, sure, why not? It's a social event, I'll go, sure. I would do it and then regret it later because I'd be pulled into that labyrinth, yanked in. Even if I started off thinking, I'm not going to get too close to this thing, this won't go anywhere, it still ends up happening. But it has helped at other times when there'd be a person who I'd see these red flags with and just would stop it before it even starts and just say no. And not even give it a chance. Because before I would think, well, why not? My intuition's telling me there's something wrong with this person. That's just my intuition. It can be wrong. Sure, I'll go out with you. The sad part is the intuition's usually right, but we don't train ourselves typically to believe that. We just think, oh, well, I've been wrong about this and wrong about that. I could be wrong about this. So let me go ahead and go into danger. And then you'd stated why statistics say only 1% has the NPD and how these traits are prevalent in North America and modern societies. As far as the 1%, I think that is probably fake news, especially with the world that we're in today, which seems to be centered around narcissistic personality disorder, like in the business world or in other areas. It's almost like those traits are being seen as positive to some groups. The other thing is when you're dealing with statistics and something like this, you have to ask yourself, where are they going to come up with these statistics? Are they going to go to every person or to a huge group of people in this world and say,
are you a narcissistic personality disorder?
No, it's just a guess, and it's way off, in my opinion. And of course, narcissism is something that can be healthy, that we all have. But as far as these creatures, we're talking about when it's a disorder, when it is like a full-time job they engage in to deceive and prey upon multiple people on a regular basis. Being concerned with yourself, that's kind of required for survival. But if you look out for yourself and destroy everyone in your path and don't care as long as you're getting your goal accomplished at anyone else's expense, that is when it's a problem. That's when it becomes a disorder. Because we wouldn't preserve ourselves if we didn't care about ourselves at all. As far as it being prevalent in modern societies, I haven't heard that statistic or looked into that, but I would think if they're in a modern society, then they've got their basic needs covered. They're not a hunter-gatherer type where they have to go out and hunt for their food and risk their lives nightly and then come home to their families. Modern societies would have modern conveniences, which means you simply go to the store and purchase your food. Oh, you lay in your bed that you've already purchased. Watch the television for some entertainment. You can be lazy and enjoy your life and not have to worry about the things that would be done in not-so-modern societies. And in today's world, I also think it's possible that the family's deteriorating. It's not like it was 20, 30 years ago. There's a lot more instability, which can result in people becoming these creatures. But it's not something people talk about. They don't walk around saying, hi, I'm a narcissistic personality disorder creature. How are you? They don't do that, and they don't even necessarily know those words. Many of them, I think, once they've encountered a lot of targets and victims, they eventually start to hear such words. They may hear the labels. I do know, too, that they will listen to psychiatric terminology and try to master that and use it on you for projection. But it's not like people have a sign on them that says, I am this, I have these traits. It's hidden, kept in the shadows, and only those who get close to these creatures end up seeing it. The idea that maybe it's your problem or your fault is very easily reinforced within our society where we don't really have any type of training for this thing. And if you encounter such a person and experience whatever they do, you'll just think you had a bad date. There isn't someone that's going to come forward and admit to their problem, nor do they see themselves as even having a problem. To them, they're proud of their accomplishments, no matter how much fraud is used to achieve them. As far as humor, coming up this evening is a very short Narcopath confession, followed by a long-awaited Sandy Hoaxtard. She's been on vacation, evidently. Then there's a fabulous song performed by the Narcopath itself, which is one that I'm proud of and think is pretty good.
I am the most beautiful narcopath ever, and you know it.
I've got a few more confessions to give you, but I know you want to hear them. You need to hear them, or so I'm told.
Get on with it.
I can't wait.
I know you probably wonder why I targeted you.
There's a good reason. First off, dread I say it, you're what they call a good person. You see me? I'm a rotten person, and I know it. But I would never tell you that when we were dating. When we first met, you told me about how you'd been abused. That was a God/devil sin for me because I love targeting people who've been abused. it really makes my job a hell of a lot easier. Because I'm abusive, of course, but I pretend to be nice. Anytime you, my target, become suspicious that maybe I'm doing something that could be considered abusive, I'll just remind you,
Well, honey, you're thinking of your ex-lover who abused you. Not everyone is like that.
even though I was doing worse, you found out eventually. But that's the way I roll. That's how I can be successful. I just pretend. So what, you told me your ex-lover cheated and disappeared one night and didn't answer the phone, and I assured you
I'd never do that to you, honey.
What did I do a few days later? Exactly that. Oh, but I apologized fake. Told you.
Oh, well, something happened. Oh, I couldn't control it. You're gonna blame me for something that was not my fault.
And it worked at so many occasions. Too bad you caught on to me. Well, if you tell anyone, you'll be sorry. I'm just kidding.
How many times have we gone over this?
Please. Good evening. I'm Sandy Hoaxtard. Welcome back to TV5 Real News. Tonight's discussion is about one of my friend's good friends, Jeffrey Epstein. He's got that pedophile island. He's linked to all kinds of elites. Donald Trump, as well as I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Bill Clinton, married to Hillary Clinton, plus billions of others. Now, they keep talking on the news about how Mr. Epstein was running child sex trafficking rings. And that's where they stop. Ring. Well, honey, my question is, in order to have a ring, you gotta have clients. So, who are the clients that the ring is serving? Of course, that is not revealed to us. I guess the Clintons and all the other fools who flew to that goddamn island for vacation. There's also a t-shirt available. It's a High Impact Blog. I did not have sexual relations on that island. Because he came out with a ridiculous lie. We already know that he's been logged at least 26 times as being a passenger on Epstein's plane. We also know Epstein had 21 different numbers to reach Mr. Clinton. Like he's desperate. If you can't get me at phone number 1, call me at number 2, 3, up to 20. Because he wants those children. What they're not telling you in the news is they also kill these children. A drone went on a flyby over the whole island and saw where they disguised certain things for Google Earth, where they actually murder children. They hate black people. Therefore, they take Haitian children, like Laura Silsby, 33, special number, and Hillary Clinton and her husband saved the day for that witch. Now she's working for Amber Alert. Aren't they in good hands? See how it works? The corrupt people work within the areas they want to exploit. So if I'm a child molester, well, I'm going to go work for agencies that deal with troubled children. I'm going to go work Children Protection Services, because that'll give me free access to them. And I can tell the world that I'm looking out for damaged children, when really, I'm the one damaging them. See how it works? It's just strange that the mainstream finally caught on to all this. Many of us have been talking about this stuff for ages. We know who hangs around Mr. Epstein. We know who the friends are, and we hear that ridiculous author who's friends with him claiming,
Oh, I don't think anybody knew what he was into.
and my question is, really? He's running a billion-dollar child sex trafficking industry, but nobody close to him knows it? How much sense does that make in today's world? I'd say 0. They all know because they're all in on it, including that fuckface who wrote that goddamn book. But yes, it's very difficult for the average American person to wrap their head around the fact that these so-called elite fools do some of the stuff they do to children. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. Nobody would accept that in a regular environment. But yet these people do it and they keep it under wraps. It's kept a secret. Just like all the other psychopaths. They operate in secrecy. That temple or whatever it was at Epstein Island, it had a dome on the top to represent the dome over our Earth. Well, that dome was removed. The drone footage showed elevator shafts. Basically, like an underground dungeon for these children. These children were killed. And if they were from other countries, nobody would care or know because they're not documented. They're smuggled in. They're trafficked. That's what child trafficking is. But you can't expect Mr. Epstein to be the only one enjoying these children. Hell no! He's gonna call up his Billy Clinton, his Hillary Clinton, his Diane Frankenstein, Nazi Pelosi, and all the rest. They probably all feast on children's flesh. For real. Which I know sounds ridiculous, but honey, they do. It's disgusting. It's so disgusting, the average person is just going to roll their eyes at it. That's what they're aiming for. But you've got to realize that's what these fools are doing. Imagine if you were one of those children. How would you like to be trafficked and have that Bill Clinton or Mike Pence, the child murderer, cut your private parts off or beat you up? Come on now. On to lighter topics. Well, maybe next time. This is Sandy Hoaxtard with TV5 Real News.